Hey guys, Suze here. Welcome back to another Keto Dinner Ideas video. If you're new here, we make these every single week and try to do 4 different easy keto recipes each week to give you a little motivation, inspiration to get in the kitchen and get your keto meal prep on. I'd love to have you hit that subscribe button and join our crew. Let's get into the video. First up this week, we made I Breathe, I'm Hungry's Keto Sheet Pan Hibachi, beef and vegetables, so good. So in a little glass dish, I started out with a tablespoon of minced ginger, a tablespoon of minced garlic, a 1/4 cup liquid aminos, a tablespoon of sesame oil, and a tablespoon of granulated swerve. And I'm just whisking that all together really well until all of that swerve is nice and dissolved and everything is combined. Now to that I'm adding about 1.5 pounds, I would say, of sirloin cap steak. If you've never had cap steak, it's a very tender cut of sirloin. And I cut it into about 1-inch chunks, and I'm just adding that and making sure it's all fully coated. I'm gonna pop a lid on this and just let it marinate in the fridge while I get all of my veggies prepped, just about an hour. Now for this recipe, it calls for about 1/2 cup of chopped red bell pepper, and I didn't have a whole big one, but I had a bag of little mini peppers in the bottom of the fridge that were about to go bad. So I am using those, and I'm just cutting the ends off and slicing them into little strips until I get about 1/2 cup of those. I'm also cutting about 2 1/2-inch chunks of onion off of a small, just yellow onion. And we're going to stick those in with our vegetable pile. We'll separate that later. And then because my husband loves the mushrooms, I'm doing about 1 cup total of white mushrooms, and I'm just kind of cutting them in half. Along with zucchini, I want about 2 cups of zucchini total, so I'm doing about 2 medium-sized zucchini. I love adding zucchini to keto meals because it's got so few net carbs and it's so delicious. So here are all of my veggies cut up. Now onto a large baking sheet, lined it with nonstick foil. I'm just dumping all of my veggies out on top of it and taking the time now to just break apart those onion rings. I am dousing these with a couple tablespoons of avocado oil, but you could totally use extra virgin olive oil. And I am just making sure that all of my vegetables are nice and coated before spreading them out evenly on my pan so they have lots of room to cook. I'm topping them with some Himalayan sea salt, along with some fresh ground black pepper. And I'm going to pop these into a 425-degree oven for 20 minutes. Now after those come out of the oven, I'm just using a spatula to move all of my veggies to one side, and they've gotten a nice little head start. And I'm dumping my marinated steak along with all of the excess juice out into the sheet pan, moving it into one even layer so it can cook, and popping it back in the oven for 10 minutes. Here it is all done. I'm just using a spatula to kind of mix my veggies in with the steak so everything has that nice marinade flavor on it. And here it is plated up. Now you could serve this over cauliflower rice if you were shooting for more carbs than I am, but just with this onion and the red bell peppers in this, along with the marinade, I just had plenty of carbs for me. And so I opted to eat it just like this, and it was nice and filling and yummy. I could eat this every single day of my life. It's such a good tasting meal. I love it. Much easier than standing over stovetop to cook it. Next up, we're doing an adaptation of Joy-filled Eats Chicken Bacon Caesar casserole. So to start with, in a very large mixing bowl, I'm adding 1 block of softened cream cheese, a 1/2 cup of avocado oil, keto-friendly mayo, a 1/2 cup of sour cream. I'm adding 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, along with 2 teaspoons of a thicker granulated onion powder. Also a 1/4 teaspoon sea salt, a 1/4 teaspoon black pepper, and I'm just using a big spoon to cream all of this together nicely. Once I have that mixed, I'm adding about 3.5 to 4 cups of diced chicken. Now this is just like a few chicken breasts I popped in the oven and baked and then chopped them up. And I'm just mixing that a little to make sure all of my chicken is fully coated before adding about 12 ounces of spinach. This was just a bag of frozen spinach that I thawed, drained, and squeezed all of the excess moisture out of it. And I'm crumbling that up into our mixture. I have 1/4 cup of crumbled bacon here. I'm gonna add half of it to my mix, and I'm gonna reserve the other 1/8 cup to put on top of our casserole. To that, I'm also adding a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and I'm mixing that all together really, really well. Taking a 9x13 baking dish and spraying it with a little olive oil cooking spray. I'm just gonna turn all of my casserole mixture out into it. And then just kind of press it into the dish and spread it out pretty evenly. Always like to give it a jiggle. And then I'm topping this with about 1/2 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, and of course the other 1/8 cup of our bacon bits. I'm gonna pop this whole thing into a 350-degree oven for 35 minutes. Here it is when it comes out of the oven. This smells so good. It smells like one of those chicken cheese balls more than it does anything remotely resembling Caesar. So I'm not sure why she named it what she did, but it's a great, great recipe. So good, and it stores in the refrigerator and reheats perfectly to have for dinner another day of the week or to have as a keto lunch. Next up, I have these awesome pork chops that we just seared and then baked along with some slow cooker Pepper Jack cauliflower. So to start with, I got my cauliflower going by spraying my crock pot with some olive oil cooking spray and adding 24 ounces of thawed, drained cauliflower to it, along with 1/2 block of cream cheese. This is 4 ounces. I just broke it into pieces and kind of put it in there evenly, along with 2 tablespoons of butter in the middle, 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. I changed up the measurements on the spices a little, added 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt and 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. Popped the lid on that. We're going to cook it for an hour and a half on high, but after it was cooking about 30 minutes, I took the lid off and mixed it around just to get that cream cheese nice and melted in there and combined. Put the lid back on, let it finish cooking for the rest of that hour. Took the lid off, gave it a good stir. And now to that, I am going to add 1/2 cup of shredded pepper jack cheese, and we did shred this ourselves to save on carbs. I am switching my crock pot to low, and I'm gonna put the lid back on this and just let this all cook while I get started on our pork chops. I am taking a cast iron skillet, and I don't have it on any heat right now. I just have it lined with some avocado oil. You could use olive oil though. And I'm putting 2 really thick cut pork chops in the pan, and I'm just going to put a combination of turmeric, garlic powder, cumin, oregano, salt, and pepper on this, and just rub that in like a little meat rub. Flipping it over, I'm doing the same seasoning combo on the other side, and then I'm turning my heat up on my cast iron to medium high, searing those for 3 minutes on one side, flipping them, searing the other side for 3 minutes. And then I'm going to top these with about another tablespoon of avocado oil and pop the whole thing into a 375-degree oven for 40 minutes. Now while those are in the oven, we're checking on our pepper jack cauliflower. I have about 6 slices of bacon here. I'm just gonna give this all a stir, make sure it's mixed well, and then I'm crumbling that bacon and putting it on top of our cauliflower mixture and putting the lid back on this while our pork chops finish. Here are pork chops out of the oven, using a meat thermometer to make sure that internal temp is to at least 145 degrees. Here it is all plated up with the pork chop and the pepper jack cauliflower on the side. I'm always a fan of pork chops. Any of you that watch my channel know I love pork chops, but my husband thought this cauliflower was excellent. I thought it was all right, but you know, I don't jump up and down over cauliflower and get that excited about it. I prefer cauliflower rice to like whole cauliflower, but it was very flavorful and delicious, but nothing could take the spotlight away from this awesome, awesome pork chop. Last up this week, we just did a super easy low carb bolognese in the slow cooker. This is adapted from Step Away from the Carbs. I'll link the original recipe down below. To my slow cooker, I am just adding 1 pound of browned ground beef that I cooked the night before. To that, I'm adding a teaspoon of granulated onion powder, a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and straying from the recipe a little, I'm adding 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, and 1/4 teaspoon ground black pepper. To that, I'm adding a 14.5 ounce can of diced tomatoes with their juice, along with 1 cup of tomato sauce, no sugar added. Make sure you double check your carbs on that. And I know this looks like a lot of tomatoes for a keto recipe, but it ends up only being about 6 net carbs for this. To that, I'm adding about a tablespoon of just some regular cooking red wine and mixing that together. Now I'm adding 3 bay leaves, and I am gonna kind of cover those with my sauce so that they can flavor it, but make sure you remove these before you serve it. And I'm popping the lid on. Now you could cook this low and slow all day if you wanted, but me, I'm always running short on time, so I cooked it on high for 4 hours. Now to plate it, I did serve it over some steamed zucchini noodles, zoodles. These are excellent because, again, zucchini has hardly any net carbs in it. And then I just topped it with a little bit of shredded Parmesan cheese. Super easy weeknight keto meal. So there you go, guys. That's this week's Keto Dinner Ideas video. I hope it gave you a little motivation to get in the kitchen and get your meal prep on. As always, we film these every single week. We love it when you comment and let us know your feedback or any ideas for future recipes. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. Share it with your friends as always. And until next time, bye guys.
When the wind